In a way, I don't know Ruby, but in more ways than one, I know her so well now as a fragrance of the wild soul. Reading your autobiography, Ruby, was such a revelation. It was an exhilarating experience. It was shocking at times. And I thought you're a very courageous woman to lay bare your soul in words for everyone to lap it up. I remember reading that while writing an autobiography, the writer begins all by himself or herself, very alone. पर वो फिर कहते हैं ना कि निकले थे तो मैं अकेला ही चला था जानिबे मंजिल, लोग साथ आते गए और कारवां बढ़ता गया. तो कुछ ऐसा ही हुआ. आप शायद आपने अकेला लिखना शुरू किया और अब आपके काम के माध्यम से, आपकी उस आत्मकथा के माध्यम से कितने लोग आपको जानते हैं. And see, I unabashedly claim to know you. I say, yes, I know Ruby, right? So welcome to Pavitra, Ruby, and we are very keen to hear it all from you. So the first thing, very philosophical in your book, very candid, straight from the heart. I would like you to begin from your childhood days. How would you describe your childhood? And what kind of formative years were those? Unmute yourself, Ruby. Ruby, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you so much, Shubha, for having me here. And thank you, Pavitra, for the beautiful platform that you have created on which we can have conversations like these. You have asked me about my childhood. I've had a very interesting childhood, and I would call it pretty normal as well, because that's the childhood that I have seen and experienced. Another thing is that I think today I can say with that confidence that I wouldn't have liked it to be any other way. Because whatever I am today, whatever little that I have been able to do, whatever little fearlessness that I have in me today, whatever little courage and confidence that I have in me today, comes from the incidents which happened in my life at that time, and made me feel that there are different kind of people in this world, and you need to accept them as they are if you need to continue focusing on your own self and continuing on your own journey. Otherwise, most of the time what happens is, if we do not accept people as they are, then we get so engrossed in dealing with that tana bana which happens, with the people, that we lose our own purpose in life. So I think meeting different kind of people, having very crazy experiences, as you must have read some of them, made me accept things a little better. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but and I thought the incidents like the teacher caning you, and and the incident in which you were at your uncle's house and you were made to eat that stale brinjal sabzi, and because you'd been naughty and it was a punishment, and so many more incidents gave me a peek into child psychology and your understanding of it. So how did those incidents help you in dealing with your own children?
They helped me so much. So I had a childhood which was extremely, the people around me were very, very strict, or maybe that was the only way to deal with me, who knows. You've seen all the naughtiness which is there, and all the Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and we believed that spare the rod and spoil the child. That was how it went.
so I don't know. It started from where? Whether I became naughty because they were so strict, or I was so naughty that they had no option but to sit with me. So whatever it was, but it really had a huge impact on the way I have brought up my children. Even my parents were very, very strict. My mother was very strict, my father was very strict, and I thought this is the only way children need to be dealt with. So when I was dealing with my children, I was so sure that this is not the way I would like it to be. Yeah, I would like to experiment with another way of bringing up my children. And today, sitting here, although I don't think my children are watching this, but they would finally. I have not spared the rod ever on my children. And as a result, today my children. But I also turned out to be the same, so I can't really. So my children are extremely independent, independent. And so on the dinner table, the kind of debates we have is that all of us are ready to stand on the dining table and, continue with our arguments, which I could not have with my parents, so or my teachers. So I could never get their perspective. Today, my children are able to get my perspective and still decide to defy me, which is okay. But I never got my parents' perspective because I never had, it was not very welcome, I think, in our generation as such, not only with me, to speak out and things like that. But yeah, it had a huge impact on the way I have brought up my children.
So you very well said that, we were not allowed to speak out, or we grew up in such a way that we bottled up our feelings.
Yeah.
And I think later on in life, those bottled up feelings find expression in so many ways. That's one takeaway from your autobiography for me. Also, something that touched a chord with me was your relationship with your father. You were so fond of him, and it was the proverbial father-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
And then he passed away just as you were preparing for your civil services exam. And that scene when your mother comes to you, I would just like you to recreate it, because it has a deep, profound lesson for mothers who have to, put the house together, stand by their children. I think that was something exemplary that she did. Just narrate it for me, for us.
Yeah, actually, the relationship with my father, I feel that there was lots left to kind of still interact and talk about, and so that relationship never got an opportunity to mature in the way that I would have liked to. And yes, he passed away suddenly. He was not unwell or anything, so there was no preparation in the mind at all. And till then in my life, nobody, I think, dear to me had passed away. So it happened just 15 days before my civil services exam. And when this happened, so a lot of relatives came to our house. I belong to Uttarakhand, and at this particular time we were in Lucknow. So a lot of relatives came. And the first thing which they talked to my mother about was that there is this 21-year-old girl. So the first thing you should do is to get her married. To kind of, I don't know how would it settle matters, but yeah, that should be the first thing. My brother was still in the National Defense Academy. He was training to be an army officer, and I was preparing for the services. So my mother, understood all this. She's herself a very fiercely independent woman in her own way. And so she came to me and she said, see, there are two options in front of you. Either you can keep grieving and not prepare well for your exam, which is your last leg. Or you can prepare yourself to get married, as these people are proposing. So what do you choose? In my opinion, that you choose to prepare for your exam and give it and put your best foot forward, and grieving can happen later. And yeah, this is what I did at that time. And with all the understanding that I have about dealing with grief today, I don't think I would have liked it to be any other way as well. Yeah. So I have talked about how bottled up grief, impacts us, and the enormity of it. And this particular example I have talked about in detail, the kind of impact it had on me. But I don't think even today, if I was given an option, I would like to take the other option. So yes, it told me, but it made me learn this whole experience as to how and when should grief be dealt with and handled.
So I believe that, when there are mountains and there are challenges, I think we have deep reservoirs of inner strength, which really come to our rescue, and we are able to draw from them. And I think you've done that throughout your life. And, Ruby,
yeah,
cracking the civil services in the North, especially in the Hindi heartland,
yeah,
IAS का एग्जाम क्लियर कर लिया, बेटी अफसर बन गई. So you must be quite a role model there, and I think you're a role model for many of our daughters. So how has the journey been as a professional, as an officer with the Indian Railway Account Services? How has the journey been?
Extremely satisfying, because I'm basically a hardcore finance person. Apart from having done my MBA Finance, I've also done my CFA, which is Chartered Financial Analyst course. And
yes, I did.
Yeah. So I did get an opportunity to operate in the financial markets. I got an opportunity, in fact, in one of my job roles when I was posted with Konkan Railways. In 4 years, I think I had single-handedly been able to borrow 3,000 crores from the market, and which was in 1998, 99. That was the time. And and some of the deals which I did at that time, they became case studies in management colleges, which I got to know later. So it has been very beautiful working in my own job role. Yes,
extremely rewarding for you, and I think Indian Railways is proud to have you as one of their officers. But tell me, how have you managed this balance? How have you managed to strike a balance between your professional life, your home, and there's so much more to you about which we'll talk. So how has this balancing act been perfected?
I don't know if I've been able to perfect it actually. And I also did not go by any textbook. But yes, what I feel is that if you are very sure and if you are very passionate about things that you want to do, then you do find time. And 24 hours is actually a lot of time. So yeah, I seriously feel that it is a lot of time. In fact, managing children, managing home, managing office was not too much of a problem for me. But when I had to start Sanjeevani after my experience, I took a little time to think as to whether I will be able to do justice to the thing. because everybody had told me that maybe your energy levels would have gone down and, things like that. But I did jump into it. And even now, I'm in managing home and job and Sanjeevani. I do have spare time. I do.
That means you are an excellent time manager and a pro multitasker. Because for a person like me who's helter-skelter, haywire, I think I need to learn a lot from you. So while going through your autobiography, I come back to it again and again because it's always with me, right here. And 2009.
Yeah.
And Shantabai comes in.
Yeah.
She comes home.
Yeah.
I've met her. And she is a very raw, illiterate person.
Yeah.
And Shantabai discovers the big C.
Yeah.
And you're diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer.
Yeah.
What was the experience? What were your feelings? I'm sure it was a complete turnaround, a jolt, a bolt from the blue. For somebody who's into adventure sport, who lives life fully to the fullest. Tell us about it.
So yeah, I think experiences like this, they do come with a jolt. You are never prepared, for the dealing with the enormity of such experiences. So same thing happened with me. And in fact, at that time, I was preparing to take up a very interesting UN assignment when this, suddenly came. And so it wasn't easy, and it was actually as painful as it is supposed to be, or as it is talked about. So it was definitely not easy, and I would not say that I made peace with it from day number one, and I was very confident that I will come out of it. No, nothing like that happened with me. I took my own time, and for me it was a process. It was a huge process that I went through to make this experience the way it worked for me. So, yeah, yes.
And your husband Anil, children Arjun and Shivanjali, what was it like with them?
So, extremely difficult for both my children, actually, and both of them derailed in their own ways during my experience. And both of them were outstanding students in sports, in drama, in everything, actually. And both of them derailed completely at the most important stage of their life. My son was in class 11 and my daughter was in class 8. So that was it was a very difficult phase of life for me that way. As far as Anil is concerned, Anil is extremely efficient as a person. Very matured, very reliable. He's like a rock in my life. And this particular thing also, he took it as a project. And, he made it sure that he excels at this project. But as a result, what happened is he also never kind of, expressed his emotions around it. So we never sat together face to face and discussed this incident in our lives, which I think would have been very difficult on him as well. Yes.
So, as one who's gone through it all, seen it all, what would be your advice to the family of people where cancer has been diagnosed and it has hit them hard. How should they deal with it in this initial phase, right at the beginning?
Actually, what I feel is that I can give the advice, which is easy to give, but every family has its own dynamics in terms of interrelationships between people. The bonding which is there between the children and the parents, and everything is so different. But my effort right now is to make people understand that cancer is a disease which can be cured. So it is not the end. What is important is that not to kind of what happens is when Priyasha, I think somebody called Shalu is trying to get in. Just see if you can get her in. Just saw the message. So what happens is in life is cancer happened and everything gets focused around cancer, which for the patient also becomes very claustrophobic, if all the time only this is being discussed. So if rest of the people can take care of their life and be normal around the patient, that helps the patient a lot. And my effort is also to convey that it is definitely not that big hawa that we make out, this big C to B. So it is a very challenging experience in someone's life, but it can be overcome. It can definitely be overcome. So this is what I would like to tell. And the family has to stand together. The family has to stand together, have a lot of fun together. So in my own case, the fun never happened because everybody became so serious around it, was so scared about it, that I myself had to be the fun factor, which became an extra responsibility. Yeah? Yes. Which I think happens with women generally. And one of my friends came and told me this, that Ruby, right now, this is not your role to entertain people. Yeah, even the friends who would come, they would come and they would just enter the living room and they would have tears in their eyes and they would sit on the sofa and they would keep crying, and I was the one who would console them, and try to come up with something light to make them laugh. Yeah. So yes.
So, even for a moment did I not feel through the book, and especially during this phase of your life, that you were completely shattered. That wasn't the case, I think. I think, yes, it must have hit you hard, but I think there was this enormous well within you, which helped you to draw out so much of inner courage. And I think all that happened within you resulted in an expression of so much of creativity. I would say creative juices were overflowing. Yeah. And post 2009, some wonderful canvases, Sanjeevani you've created from the scratch, and you've written a book. In terms of creativity per se, what more can one ask for? And I also felt that each canvas during that phase, even though you've been painting earlier, you've been painting prior to this also, and you still paint, but the canvases that you painted then reflected your state of mind. So it would be simply wonderful if you could, show us those canvases and talk about them, because they are vibrant and they're profound.
Yes, I will try. So what had happened is that after my first chemotherapy was over, I came back home after being in the hospital for 2 days, and I was finding it very, very difficult. Physically, it was very difficult on me. and somewhere it did hurt or impact my psyche as well. So, and I felt that I'm not able to handle this experience, and I may lose it completely. So I picked up the car and I went to this art supply store where I go generally, and I picked up a canvas and I came back and I painted this canvas. And I painted this canvas in a frenzy. So this is a 4 feet by 4 feet. It's a huge painting, which is there. And I kept it in my bedroom only. And I would look at it, all the time after having completed it. And I found too much of pain in this painting, as if I had, जिसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, उडेल दिया था सारा का सारा दर्द. तो बहुत पेनफुल लग रही थी ये देखने में. तो फिर क्या हुआ कि I had gone to the hospital, and there the doctor told me to come for a round with him. I went for a round with him, and he went to the children's ward. And there I saw a little baby of 3 years who was crying. I mean, she was like howling badly. So I asked the doctor as to why this baby is crying so badly. So he said this girl, she had a brain tumor. And when we gave her chemotherapy, she lost her eyesight in both the eyes. And she's not able to deal with it. I said, all right. And then a young mother of around 29-30 came and picked up the child. And I kind of wanted to ask her, what happened and where are the other people in the family and something like that. I was just thinking of asking when this lady told me that we are just the two of us because my husband left me as soon as he got to know that the child has cancer. And she picked up the child. And she again looked at me and she told me that, उन्होंने हिंदी में मुझे बताया कि मैंने उनको माफ कर दिया है. I've forgiven him. Not because that I wanted to forgive him, but I thought that it was interfering with my whole, this process of treatment for my child. तो मैंने उनको माफ कर दिया है. I was like stunned, this poor lady, I don't know what was her education, if at all. She picked up the child and she started walking, and suddenly a 8 or 10-year-old girl came, and she held the hand of this lady with a few files and started walking. And I just assumed that maybe, she must be the eldest daughter or something like that. So I said, अच्छा, आप उसकी बड़े बहन हो? She said, नहीं, मैं बड़ी बहन नहीं हूँ, मैं तो इधर पेशेंट ही हूँ इस वार्ड में. मेरा भी ट्रीटमेंट चल रहा है, पर मैं ये आंटी को रोजाना देखती थी अकेले जाते हुए बच्चे के साथ, तो मैं अब उनके साथ रोज जाती हूँ और उनकी हेल्प करती हूँ फाइल कैरी करने में. तो ये जो this whole experience was so profound for me, at every level, at the level of that 3-year-old kid, at the level of the young mother, and at the level of this another 8-year-old girl, that I came back and I toned down the pain in this painting and I made that butterfly, which was otherwise not a part of this painting. So yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So, and then this painting happened because a lot of thinking had started happening. I had got a lot of time. This was the first time I took leave from my job. The family responsibilities had reduced. And if you can see, and every canvas has lots of stories around it, which we can't talk about right now, but I have talked about them in the book. So each painting, has a lot of story. So if you can see a tree behind it, the stunted branches, and then the flowers coming out, and then the world, my globe, which is there, and then you can see the eye there, which is crying, and there is a bird which is flying away. So there is lots happening actually in all the paintings. But this is the contemplation. I named it contemplation. And I could see a lot of myself inside after this contemplation happened. And as a result of this, the first thing that happened was accepting that, yes, I've got this. And this acceptance made a huge difference to the way I could handle my experience of cancer thereon. The next one which I made is remembrance, because my family and some people around me, they started sending me various things, कोई किसी मंदिर में जा रहा है, वहां से प्रसाद भेज रहे हैं, कोई कहीं जा रहा है, कहीं पूजा करा रहे हैं, कुछ हो रहा है. तो मुझे थोड़े समय के लिए लगा कि probably the traditional form of worshipping is the way. But ये stage मेरी बहुत जल्दी I was able to pass through this stage, and then came the another stage where I realized that I have to rise beyond my sensory experiences. Because the later part of chemotherapy became extremely painful, and there were times when I was not sleeping nights and nights, in continuity, and a lot of contemplation happened at that time. And there were some out-of-body experiences which I have mentioned in the book, and that is what made me learn that it is possible to differentiate between your pain in the body and the suffering inside you. It is possible कि इन दोनों को अलग अलग हम रख सकते हैं. तो ये मेरा experience जो इसमें मैंने किया. And then this was the painting where I understood that I need to withdraw. I need to withdraw from a lot of things in my life. I need to withdraw from a lot of mental constructs of my own in my life. If I want to convert this experience into something. So this is the painting about convergence. And as a result of this, this painting happened when I started feeling the calm. I started feeling that life is still so beautiful. I may be totally bald. I may be extremely weak, but life is still beautiful. So that calmness had come, and I got a lot into meditation and things like that. And the last painting which happened, it happened after quite some time, and it is not very clear in this picture, but this is one painting which is done with only one color and one brush, actually, which is not the case in other paintings. So this painting has just, the rest of the paintings as well, they have just kind of flown out of me. But this was done, I think, probably in a couple of hours. And the harmony inside the body and the mind, probably you can experience in this painting. So yes, after I saw this series, I named it towards Satori. That looked like an apt name, apt title for the series for my own self.
The Japanese term Satori, which means meditation, samadhi.
Samadhi, yes.
Samadhi. It means samadhi, yes.
Yeah.
And so, Ruby, going through these paintings is almost like knowing you through that phase of life. The various changes that took place within you. And you coin a beautiful phrase in your story. It's the beauty of abundance.
Yeah.
And I'm completely taken over by it. How ungrateful are we is the first thought that comes to me. That we are unable to see the abundance around us. And you put it so beautifully, the beauty of abundance. I think that's the best therapy that we all require as human beings.
Absolutely.
And I see you as somebody very philosophical. If I were to ask you to say something about your belief, your philosophy of life, what would you be? Would you just say realizing the beauty of abundance, or you'd add something more to it?
I would say that most of the time, I think we take ourselves very seriously. And the world is extremely beautiful. And we are here to celebrate life. See, we don't even have to do anything. Most of the valuable things, most of the essential things in this world are free of cost. You just have to let them come to you. You just have to let them come to you. Whether it is in terms of physical things, whether it is water or it is sunlight or it is moonlight, you know, whether it is air, it is oxygen around you, everything is free. And even the feelings and the emotions which make you celebrate life and live it the way it is supposed to be are all free and are all around us. You know, this concept of love which we talk about, love with the plants, with the animals. You know that I've got a mini zoo in my house and I've got hundreds of plants in my house. And every time I go down for a walk in that garden, I can see so much of beauty, and I'm amazed at how each leaf looks different. So I think we are here just to celebrate life, but we make it so miserable. Unnecessarily, because we take ourselves very seriously. If we just let go of ourselves, I think life is beautiful, needs to be celebrated.
You know something, Ruby? Sounds funny, but it's true. I've been living in this flat for the past 9 years. And it only took the lockdown to open my eyes to the beauty of the sea, which is right across.
Yes.
All these 8 years, 9 years, I'd been blissfully unaware of it. I'd taken it for granted. Yeah. And the lockdown and the complications and the stress related with the virus and the kind of news that was filtering in made me look out of the window, pause for a while, and soak in the beauty of the sunset on one side and the sunrise on other. And I realized, when you write beauty of abundance, this is what it means. I remember reading a poem of Wordsworth which said, "The world is too much with us. Getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours." I think you want us to see that beauty of abundance. It's a great message, Ruby.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And then, you know, this beauty of abundance leads you to creating Sanjeevani, life beyond cancer. And just as I told you, the moment Sanjeevani, I read the word, I thought, oh, Sanjeevani Booty, Hanumanji wali. Lakshman ko jila diya. तो उठा के ले आए वो तो सारा का सारा. And I think you are Sanjeevani, because, you know, other than the chemotherapy, the medicines, the doctors, the hospitals, there's something more that's about cancer care. I would like you to take us down this specific part of your journey, this phase of your life, Sanjeevani?
So, Shubha, it took me around 3 years to get back to my feet and join my work back. And when I was going to Tata Hospital for my treatment, and people from all economic strata and from all over the country come there, I would see so many people sitting on the floor with these tubes in their nose and their mouth, and I would wonder that this experience, which I'm finding so very difficult to live with, how do these people, how do they put up with this experience, probably with none of the resources that I have? How do they do it? And I would see people who are uneducated, they would stand in a queue for hours to be told later that this was not the queue in which they had to be, because they could not read, they can't even ask properly, and they would sit without this total loss of hope in their eyes. And that is what would haunt me even when I was going through my experience. And I wanted to do something. And when I used to tell my doctor that I want to do something, he would always tease me. He would tell me कि देखो stage 3 में हो, पहले जिंदा बच जाओगी तो कुछ कर लेना, types, you know. तो 3 साल लगे और फिर जॉब जब ज्वाइन किया, मुझे लगा कि अभी कर लेना चाहिए इसको. अभी नहीं किया तो फिर मैं उसी में खो जाऊंगी, you know, जो पहले वाला वर्ल्ड था वही शुरू हो जाएगा. So I registered Sanjeevani, and I was very sure that I wanted to work with the underprivileged cancer patients. I was very sure I wanted to work in government hospitals. I was also very sure that I do not want to do charity in the sense कि गए पैसे दे दिए hospital को या patients को या खाना बांट दिया, वो मुझे नहीं करना है, ये मैं बहुत श्योर थी. लेकिन जो करना है वो कैसे कर सकती हूँ इसका कोई आइडिया नहीं था. I wanted to empower people from within so that they can deal with this experience of cancer, and if they were living life at this level before their experience of cancer, they should live life at this level after their experience of cancer. So that was what was there in my mind. And so this is what I wanted to.
Yeah, so I could sense that, you know, now Sanjeevani is your focal point in life, and from whatever I've read, I think I should tell our audience that Sanjeevani today runs free centers in 16 cities across 11 states and 1 union territory, and has impacted more than 2.5 lakh patients since its inception, and has been awarded at many levels for its sincere and impactful work through its innovative long-term solutions. You are an advocate for the empowerment of the masses, Ruby, and I think Sanjeevani is your potent tool. We would love to see something about Sanjeevani, maybe a video, a few slides, if they are there.
Priyasha, you're there with us?
जी मैम.
प्रियशा, इसके बाद I really want, if it is possible, जब मैं आज सेशन के टाइम पे बात कर रही थी और अश्वनी जी ने कुछ बोला था, अगर आप उसको दिखा सकते हो. आज ही की बात है शुभा. So I was very keen कि अगर उसको मैं ऐसे ही बात कर रही थी सबसे कि आपको क्या फायदा हुआ जो 12 दिन का कोर्स किया. Somebody landed up saying something. I don't know if Priyasha has it ready, then she'll show.
Overwhelming, so amazing, Ruby, and words fall short. So yes, if you were asked to say what's been your learning experience, how has the learning curve been through Sanjeevani, what would you say? Through interactions with various people, doctors and patients alike.
My learning curve has been extremely steep, actually. Apart from the interactions with doctors and others, I have always been a very extrovert kind of a person. So interactions were coming my way before this also. But yes, in the medical field, I got to know a lot about cancer. I got to know a lot about the limitations of the whole modern medical system, despite it being extremely important, but it has its own limitations. But most of the time what we think is that if we go to the doctor, we are sorted. But this is not how it works. Going to the doctor is very important. Getting yourself treated is very important. But what goes in to really heal yourself is much beyond, actually, much beyond. And in that, the medical fraternity is, stands by you only up to 20%, and because that is what the science is all about. But the learning curve has been more about my interactions with my own self. So there has been a lot of learning which has happened at that level. Every time I talk to a patient, and every time a patient kind of gives a feedback, there is something which opens in me. And literally, I'm telling you, Shubha, this is a very physical feeling as well. Of course, it's a psychological thing, but it's a very physical feeling as well, that there is something which opens inside me. And as a result of this, when you read the book, you must have realized that I'm quite open as a person. But now, as if there is just no boundary, most of the time, that is how I feel. And that learning has been extremely phenomenal.
Yes. And I think all of us know you as a very fearless woman in your professional space also. And while reading the book, I thought I read somewhere about you talking about holistic healing. Yes. What do you mean by the term holistic healing?
What happens is, so all our chronic diseases are basically caused by the way we look at the world, by the way we interact with the world, by the way we interact with people around ourselves, and by the way we interact with our own selves. So all these chronic diseases, whether it is arthritis, it is hypertension, it is high BP, it is diabetes, or it is cancer, all these diseases, they start from here. And all of them, मतलब वो अंदर से पनपती है. कोरोना वायरस की तरह नहीं है कि हम किसी से कंटेजियस है और हमको लग जाती है. तो अगर अंदर से पनपती है, और तो हम दवाई खा के, मेडिसिन खा के उसको दबा तो सकते हैं, लेकिन जब तक हम अपने अंदर के एनवायरनमेंट को, जिसने इस डिजीज को जन्म दिया है, जब तक हम उस इंटरनल एनवायरनमेंट को समझे नहीं, या और समझ के हम उसके ऊपर काम नहीं करें, टू चेंज इट, टू प्यूरिफाई इट, तब तक तो हीलिंग हो नहीं सकती ना, तब तक it is not possible. So when I talk about holistic healing, I talk about this only, that anything which manifests outside, for it to be completely healed, it needs holistic healing. So holistic healing means you have to work on the whole of your mental and physical environment inside you. And yes, there are tools available, but this sincerity, this dedication, this commitment has to come, and this understanding has to come that holistic healing is the only way.
Definitely.
And that is what we are trying to do in Sanjeevani with cancer patients through our various projects.
Yes, so there is a question about your various projects. If you could throw light on any one of them, which is about, which helps in empowering the patients, cancer survivors. If you could just tell us about one of those projects.
It'll be so difficult for me to choose that one project because all our projects empower. But anyways, so I will talk about this 36 session course that we do with the patients. And we call it Satori. We call it Satori.
Okay.
Yes, we have named it Satori. जबकि बाकी programs के नाम कैन सहयोगी, कैन सारथी, कैन चेतना इस तरह से हैं. बट इस प्रोग्राम का नाम सतोरी है. इसके बहुत पैशनेट हूँ मैं इस प्रोजेक्ट के प्रति और डायरेक्टली बहुत काम करती हूँ पेशेंट्स के साथ ऑन दिस. एंड पेशेंट्स ने इस प्रोग्राम को दे कॉल इट ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल एक्चुअली. That is, so we do a lot of impact studies on our programs with huge samples to see the reduction in pain, to see the change in their affective and their emotional and physical states. तो ये प्रोग्राम जो हम करते हैं इसमें हम होलिस्टिक हीलिंग के ऊपर काम करते हैं पेशेंट्स के साथ. और अभी जब से लॉकडाउन हुआ है हमने 2 दिन के अंदर ही इसको ऑनलाइन कर दिया था. So, Gausia or Priyasha, I really want to show you a 1-minute video if you allow me, Shubha.
Yes, please. Yes, definitely. We have some time.
This was a conversation which happened just today. She is a young girl and I was asking her in the morning कि आप बताओ कि आपने ये प्रोग्राम अटेंड किया तो क्या हुआ. Just see what she says.
Morning, ma'am. सबको good morning.
Very good morning to you. Very good morning. तो अंतिमा आप पिछले बैच में थे ना हमारे साथ?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
कहाँ से हो? कहाँ से?
मैं कल्याण से हूँ.
अच्छा, ओके. तो आपका ट्रीटमेंट हो गया है या हो रहा है?
मैम अभी हो रहा है.
क्या ट्रीटमेंट चल रहा है अभी?
मैम अभी केमोथेरेपी मेरा स्टार्ट है.
कहाँ? टाटा हॉस्पिटल में?
यस मैम.
ओके, ऑल राइट. और कितनी केमोथेरेपीज बताई हैं?
मैम अभी 8 और है. पहले अभी 3 हो गया और लॉकडाउन की वजह से थोड़ा लेट हो गया तो इसीलिए 8 बचा है अभी.
ओके. और कहाँ का आपको ये कैंसर है अंतिमा?
मैम हाथ में था, ये देखिए.
हाँ. ओके, ऑल राइट. तो सर्जरी कर दी उन्होंने?
यस मैम, सर्जरी भी हो गया मैम और मेरा केमो भी हो गया था. अभी रिलैप्स केस है मेरा.
Yes, अच्छा. ओके. तो पहले आपको हाथ में हुआ, फिर रिलैप्स कहाँ पे हो गया अंतिमा?
रिलैप्स मैम मुझे गले पे आया है. हाँ, तो अभी उसमें कैसा था कि टीबी की वजह से मुझे रिलैप्स आया क्योंकि उसमें वीकनेस ज्यादा हो गया था मुझे.
हाँ.
तो फिर इसीलिए टीबी की गांठ आई थी तो उसमें ही कैंसर भी आ गया, थोड़ा सा, ज्यादा नहीं कुछ.
तो बेटा तुम इतनी सारी बीमारियां क्यों पालते रहते हो?
मैम आ गया.
हाँ,
आ गया मैम.
ओके. और पढ़ाई कर रहे हो?
यस मैम, अभी 12th में हूँ मैं.
पढ़ाई कर रहे हो?
यस मैम.
12th में हो. ऑल राइट. तो ये बताओ आपने यहाँ पे क्या सीखा अंतिमा?
मैम मैं पहली बार तो आई जब मुझे वंदना मैम ज्वाइनिंग करवाई थी ये सेशन, तो फिर मैं इसमें आई तो मैं अपने न्यूट्रिशन पे बहुत ध्यान देने लगी क्योंकि मैं इसमें बहुत सबको स्ट्रांग देखा और फिर मैंने भी अपने न्यूट्रिशन पे ध्यान दिया और अभी तक मुझे कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं हुआ है जब से केमो लग रहा है मेरा. और मैम मेरे हाथ में ये देखिए, पहले ऊपर ऐसा नहीं जाता था और अभी एक्सरसाइज करके ऊपर भी जाता है और ये मूवमेंट भी होने लगा. और फिर अभी मैं डांस भी कर लेती हूँ.
अरे वाह, ये तो तुमने बहुत ही बढ़िया बात बता दी अंतिमा। हम
Yes,
लोग
ma'am.
एक बहुत जल्दी ये वाला सेशन करेंगे जिसको हम फन सेशन बोलते हैं।
Yes,
तो
ma'am.
उसमें सब लोग जो भी टैलेंट होता है वो करते हैं, तो आप उस दिन डांस करेंगे। ओके,
Yes, ma'am.
ऑल राइट। और क्या
ma'am.
सीखा आपने अंतिमा?
और मैम यही मैम, मैं एक्सरसाइज भी करती हूँ और फिर न्यूट्रिशन पे मैंने ध्यान दिया। यहाँ पे सब लोग अपने बारे में जैसे बताते थे मुझे, मैं पहले बहुत गुस्सा करती थी और फिर मैं यही सोचती थी मुझे रिलैप्स आ गया, अब मैं पता नहीं ठीक होएगी या नहीं, बट इस सेशन में मैंने देखा बहुत से ऐसे लोग हैं जिनको रिलैप्स आया और वो बिल्कुल ठीक हो गए हैं, और मैं भी एकदम ठीक हो जाऊंगी। मैं हमेशा भी हैप्पी रहने लगी।
वेरी नाइस। आप बिल्कुल बिल्कुल ठीक हो जाओगे, एकदम बढ़िया हो जाओगे। और आपकी स्माइल इतनी ब्राइट है, तो आपको तो ठीक होना ही है, कोई ऑप्शन
Yes,
नहीं
ma'am.
है ना?
Yes, ma'am.
यस, गुड गुड गुड। गॉड ब्लेस यू। और हम लोग साथ में काम करते रहेंगे ताकि
Yes, ma'am.
जितनी हम आपकी हेल्प कर सके उतनी कर सकें। तो जो हम कॉलेजेस के साथ अवेयरनेस हेल्दी लाइफस्टाइल पे करते हैं,
Let's start, please. Yeah, don't mind my shabbiness because I was not prepared कि ये वीडियो दिखाएंगे हम ऐसे।
No, not
This is
at
an
all.
everyday's interaction.
नहीं, वो मुझे जानती हैं रूबी, दिल है छोटा सा छोटी सी आशा, न जाने क्यों वो गाना याद आ गया। और आपने अपनी पेंटिंग्स में वो एक्सेप्टेंस की बात की ना, there is also, so one of Priya, my friend, has been talking about it in her question, and there's somebody else also who talks about you caging the spirit and then setting it free. I think the smile of this child says it all.
Yes.
How she's able to smile through it.
Yeah.
And, this is, I think, a major breakthrough. This is a high point, I think, for somebody like you, and it's so heartening to see it. I can't imagine somebody like this smiling so brightly, talking about her chemo as if, it's something really normal, and saying कि पहले नहीं लगता था, अब तो लगता है कि मैं ठीक हो जाऊंगी।
Yeah.
ये उम्मीद और आशा से बड़ी औषधि क्या होगी?
True. And Shubha, to see 200 of these patients every day and listen such things, I mean, you feel so blessed. You feel so blessed, and you feel as if everything within you has kind of opened, yeah.
So tell me something, how does this acceptance come about? And how did it come about in you especially? Of course, your canvases, writing efforts, your gardening, your adventure sports, I think they all must have played a part. But otherwise also, tell me, how did you manage to come to this level of acceptance?
I think initially तो मुझे ये लगा कि मेडिटेशन तो मैं काफी समय से कर रही हूँ, हालांकि इसकी क्वालिटी बहुत चेंज हो गई है आफ्टर माय कैंसर एक्सपीरियंस। तो मुझे ये समझ में आ गया था काफी जल्दी कि बिना एक्सेप्ट करे तो इस एक्सपीरियंस का कोई मतलब नहीं है। ये एक्सपीरियंस में जिसमें मैं इतना झेल रही हूँ, मैं इसको बेकार नहीं जाने दे सकती। I just can't let it just go away like that. And if I need to understand this experience, and if I need to see its relevance in my whole journey of life, then I have to get around it. And to get around it, मुझे ये समझ में आया कि सबसे पहले तो एक्सेप्ट करूं, तब तो पूरा एक्सपीरियंस समझ आएगा। जब तक डिनाइल में है तब तो उसको बाहर से देख रहे हैं, उसको रिजेक्ट करे जा रहे हैं, उसको इसकी गलती की वजह से हो गया, उसकी गलती की वजह से हो गया, ये मुझे क्यों होना चाहिए, तो इसी में सारा समय बर्बाद हो जाएगा। If I accept it properly, then I start seeing within myself कि हो क्या रहा है।
That's true. So, Ruby, I just wish that, we could carry on this conversation because there's so much more to it. And you're such a multifaceted person. There's so many dimensions to your personality. it's a great learning experience to be with you. But tell me something, and this is, I think, quite a worldly question. But I think what would you say about your patrons and donors? Because it's such a huge task to run this organization, which is spread in 16 cities, union territories, 2.5 lakh patients. How do you manage it?
It's one of the most difficult aspects of your work because generating that kind of resources from people, and in India, people generally do not have this habit of giving, easily. Even the corporates and the business houses which give money, most of them, they make you feel like beggars. So somewhere, you feel that, you are changing lives. I mean, you're changing lives here. And as per the latest WHO report, which says that out of every one Indian, out of every 10 Indians, one Indian will go through this experience of cancer. This is the enormity of the problem. And I'm trying to work on it. So I used to think that this is such a good cause and people will come forward on their own. So it's a difficult job, Shubha. And I'm extremely grateful to those people who support us, because the program and everything, because we create a lot of employment opportunities for cancer survivors. During this lockdown, so many cancer patients have lost their jobs, their relatives have lost their jobs. So we have doubled our efforts, of creating employment for them. We train them as cancer caregivers. So I'm extremely grateful to the people who have done this, they support our cause. And yes, of course, I leave no opportunity to make this appeal anywhere on any platform, that it is only with your support that this work can be carried out. Otherwise, alone to akele to main nahi kar sakti hu, main bilkul nahi kar sakti hu. And I totally accept this, and with all humility, I appeal to everybody that whatever they can do to support our cause, it would be so very welcome, and I would be so very grateful on behalf of all the patients that we work with.
Ruby, we are blessed, we feel blessed at Pavitra to have been associated with you, and I wish to carry forward this association in whatever way we can. We are still in our nascent stage of growth, and we will try our level best to be of some help in this noble cause, noble venture of yours. Thank you so much, Ruby. And I cannot resist but, quote from my most favorite poet, Maya Angelou, when she writes about the phenomenal woman. And she says, when you see me passing, I ought to make you see me passing and notice me, because I say it's in the click of my heel, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, the need of my care, because I am a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. Phenomenal woman. That's Ruby. It's been such a pleasure, and truly phenomenal you are. Wishing you amazing years of abundance, learning, and giving to this society. Wishing you a very purposeful life.
Thank you so much, Shubha, for this wonderful conversation. I've done very few conversations in which I ended up saying so much. You could really reach the depth of me. So thank you so much for curating it so beautifully. And thank you so much, the Pavitra platform. And you said that you are in the nascent stage. I hope that we all grow together, we remain in touch, and we remain connected.
Yes. So looking forward to a great learning experience with you. And thanks to you for sparing time for us, because I've noticed that you are forever busy with your home, your office, and Sanjeevani. And thanks to your team of wonderful girls.
I've got a wonderful team.
Priyasha, and there was
Garcia
there. Both of them have been simply wonderful. And Priyasha has been guiding me through this. And I'm glad that I was able to do my bit. It's only a very small, it's not even a drop in the ocean, but I really wanted your story to be known by as many people as possible, as it is many people know about it. But I thought Pavitra would feel blessed to carry it forward. Thank you so much, Ruby, and hope to see you again soon, and hope to stay connected. To all the viewers of Pavitra, thank you so much for being with us always. We look forward to your questions, your patronage. Please keep writing to us. Please keep telling us what is it that we should be doing, what is it that you want us to do, and where do we go wrong. We'll be enriched by your interaction with us. Thank you so much for being with us. Pavitra says a big thank you to Ruby Ahluwalia and her team. And here's wishing you all the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.